Hello lovely people. This week I just wanted to quickly run through my TBR for the Asian Readathon.
Sophie vlogs.
I took part in the Asian Readathon for the first time last year and I had an absolutely amazing time. I think at least two of the books that I read for it ended up on my favourite books of the year's list. So I had a really great time. I set myself a very ambitious TBR last time and I had a really great time working through it. This time, May is shaping up to be a little bit of a busy month work-wise, so I'm giving myself more of a loose sort of, these are some books that I might read, and we'll see at the end of the month how much I do. I'm trying to exercise like a little bit of, self-care. I will include in the box down below links to Cindy's announcement video where she talks through the different prompts, and the link to my wrap up from last time, and also like any other things that might be of interest. So as well as the usual prompts of read a book by an Asian author and stuff like that, one of the prompts was to read a book from your favourite genre. Now, I notoriously don't know what my favourite genre is because I dabble. I've gone for fantasy for this one, and the book that I'm planning on reading is A Hero Born by Yong, which is translated by Anna Holmwood. This is on my radar because of two booktubers. The Bookish Land mentioned that this is a very iconic and classic piece of Chinese fantasy writing, and also more recently I saw on Tammy Tries to Read's channel. I haven't actually mentioned this in a haul yet, this is its first outing on the channel, but this sounds really intriguing. It's set in China in 1200 AD. We're following this guy who is the son of a murdered Song patriot who grew up with Genghis Khan's army. All I really know about this is that like this empire is like being invaded by enemies, and this guy, we sort of follow him, and he's like guided by the seven heroes of the south. He must return to China to fulfill his destiny, but in a land riven by war and betrayal, his courage and his loyalties will be tested at every turn. I know this is the first book in a series. Essentially, both of those people talking about it made me really intrigued, so I picked it up very, very recently actually, and I'm just going to give it a go. I'm excited. I think fantasy is what I'm in the mood for. I'm hoping that if I can piggyback off of like sort of mood reading preferences, then I can really like start myself off really well on the readathon and actually like get in the zone. The other prompt was to read a non-fiction book. Non-fiction is actually also one of my favourite genres, so I very nearly also picked a non-fiction book for the favourite genre challenge, but I decided to be different. The one I've gone for is Inglorious Empire, What the British Did to India by Shashi Tharoor, which is essentially an examination of Britain colonising India, and also it's kind of one of those books that is really interrogating these sort of myths that have been perpetuated. I think there are these arguments that are used to justify the behaviour of the British in India, and this book is really sort of delving into them, examining them and unpicking them and exposing them for being myths. So I decided to go for this one for my non-fiction read. After that are just a couple of extra books that I'm just going to sort of try and fit in if I have the time. A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini is one that I meant to read for last year's, but I set myself such an ambitious TBR last year that I didn't get to it. This is a reread. The reason I want to reread it is because I just can't really remember it very well. I know that it is set in Afghanistan during the Taliban's regime, and from memory we are following two different women. So one of them is an older married woman and one of them is much younger. We're looking at the effect that this regime has had upon their lives and sort of using that to sort of look at this time period in general. I remember being really gutted by this book, which is, I think, why I didn't read it last year, because I read some intense non-fiction books last year, so I didn't feel up for it. I've decided to include it again because this could be my moment that I finally do the reread, but I am expecting myself to be quite emotional about it. Another book that I want to read on my Kindle is Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. This is a Korean book that was on my radar because of Monica and Monica Kim. I know that this is a chunky one, which is why I bought it on my Kindle, because sometimes I find those big chunky books much more manageable to read on my Kindle. I know that it's like a multi-generational like family story. We follow this Korean woman who has an affair with a married man, ends up pregnant, and then she ends up marrying this guy who is moving to Japan, and then I believe it's one of those stories where we follow like this family through the generations. This is another one that I think I've heard is also very emotional, but I've heard such good things about this. Every time I hear someone talk about it, they absolutely love it, and they said that they get so immersed in the world and everything, so it's another one that I'm really looking forward to reading. I've also included just like a tiny little bonus extra, just a little light read for myself. This is The Old Man of the Moon by Shen Fu. A moving 19th century account lost for many decades of a Chinese official's all-consuming love for his wife. I just thought, given that I have given myself a couple that might be slightly tearjerkers, might be quite like intense reads, I thought I'd just like slip in a tiny little bonus extra. So then either way, I'll definitely read this book. So yeah, that's everything that I plan on reading. Obviously, if the month does calm down for me a bit work-wise and I have the brain capacity, I'm going to try and throw in a bunch more books. We'll see. But either way, I will wrap all of this up at the end of the month and get back to you on my thoughts on how I feel. I would love to know if you're taking part in Asian Readathon. What are you planning on reading, or what have been some of your highlights from previous years? And also, do you have any thoughts on any of these? I would love to hear from you. Please do leave a comment down below. Otherwise, I will see you next time for something different.